Mark 7:24-30. And the title of my sermon is The Cyst in the System. Please bow your heads and pray with me. Jesus, my prayer is simple. Please take everything out of me that is not of you. Please fill me instead with your strength, with your anointing and your power, so that even out of this broken vessel, your words will pour forth. Jesus, I ask that you stand as a filter between me and your people, so that they don't hear me at all, but they hear the words that you intend for them to hear. These are all things we ask in your name. Amen. It hurt me to watch her. She chose to share a sliver of her life with me. And though she would not look me in the eyes at first, she was both a gorgeous woman and a beautiful person. Standing at 6 feet 4 inches tall, she was voluptuous and statuesque. She turned heads when she entered the room, but I knew that she didn't even know it. She had been so broken in her past that she frequently would keep her head bowed and her eyes averted whenever she passed people. But you got a chance to see a glimpse of the vibrant woman that she used to be during her son's basketball games. Proud of her baby boy and full of the spirit of competition, she would momentarily forget that she had given birth to that son in a domestic violence shelter. Living in fear of her almost 7-foot-tall husband's drug-induced rages, sacrificing herself to protect her 2 little girls and the promise of the son that was growing inside her. She would be cheering, shouting, beaming with delight, watching that son own the basketball court. Her son was in the youth ministry, and we always tried to go to all of our young people's games, plays, pageants, whatever they had. And it was halftime when Miss G and I were talking about her son, Terrell. Terrell had started becoming very aggressive and disrespectful. He would throw tantrums of epic proportions if he couldn't get his way or if he felt that someone was babying him. And for obvious reasons, that behavior is problematic. But when you're already 6'5" at 15 and you're known for your rage, Terrell was an issue. And though I had known Terrell for about 3 years, I had just met Miss G at a game 2 weeks before. She was embarrassed by his behavior and concerned because she was seeing too many signs of his father in his behavior. She told me that he hated when she babied him, getting all concerned if he got hurt, but she couldn't help it, and I understood she's a mother. That's what mothers do. Be concerned about their children's well-being. But there was another reason that I was about to find out. I found out that Terrell had been born with a spinal deformity, and he was told that he would never walk. For the first 8 years of his life, he was confined to a wheelchair. And she told me how she had gone to doctor after doctor and specialist after specialist, listening to negative reports about her son's condition and being disrespected and looked down upon by the medical personnel and social workers because she lived in a shelter. The woman, the Gentile woman that we read about in the gospel passage, is a mother. Her daughter had become possessed by a demon, and she had to watch her daughter struggle and suffer. There's a version of the same story in the book of Matthew that describes this woman as almost stalking Jesus for a few days, yelling and screaming, begging for Jesus to help her. And though Mark doesn't talk about that part, the fact that she found Jesus and made sure that he acknowledged her when he was trying to have some private time to himself shows her persistence. And unlike we frequently see now, in those times, women weren't supposed to pursue a man about anything. It went deeper than just customs. This behavior was risky for women. Even then, to make it more dangerous, this was a Greek woman, a Gentile, Syrophoenician, and she's approaching a Jewish man. The Jews did not mix and mingle with the Gentiles. In fact, they kind of looked down on them. But this woman did not care about any of that. She had a sick child, and like Miss G, she was going to do whatever she could to help her child. The Gentiles were not Jesus' original nor intended audience, because Jews did not fool with Gentiles. And many people use this text, they try to use this text to support the rejection of and the subjugation of women. But this is actually about the rejection of Gentiles, period. Any non-Jew, men too. Now, I know when I first read this text, I was a little mad at Jesus for the way that he treated her, the way he spoke to her. But then I had to look at it just a little bit deeper. Jesus had just come in the chapters preceding from a showdown with the religious leaders about their hypocrisy. He was frustrated with the Jews for missing the importance of his coming and his mission. So he just wanted a little time to himself to regroup and to process that encounter and his disappointment. And here comes a needy woman. One that he's not even supposed to be talking to. So he's already aggravated, and there's someone else that he owes nothing to wants something else from him. So we know Jesus is divine, but we frequently forget his humanity. Have you ever had one of those days at work? Counting the seconds until it's time to clock out? And you finally escape, you're at the elevator or you're in a parking lot, you can almost taste your freedom, and then someone comes up to you, you're already gone now, but then they ask you to do another task, and then has the nerve to be someone that you don't work for, and that you don't fool with anyway? How polite are you to them? How polite are you to your own spouse or your own children when you spend all day taking care of house and home for them, working hard, handling every problem before it even arises, and they ignore your efforts, but they come at you with a whole new list of demands? Are you always nice and loving in your response? And yes, Jesus' reply seems unnecessarily harsh. It seems rude and it seems mean to this distraught mother. Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair. And by saying not fair, he's saying that he's trying to focus on what he did come to do, save the Jews. So it's not fair to take the children's food, children the Jews, and throw it to the dogs, the Gentiles. Now we're just guessing at Jesus' true motive with this response. He might have just been tired and cranky. Or he might have been testing her. But she did not care. She had come this far, risked everything to see Jesus, to throw herself at his feet and beg for her daughter's life. Jewish scorn meant nothing to her. Male patriarchy didn't faze her. Danger to her own life was a chance that she was willing to take for her baby girl. She resisted any and all opposition just to have a meeting with the Master. Resist. Let nothing stand between you and Jesus, between you and your goal of getting what you need from the Lord or from the church. We have to learn to operate with a holy boldness. And ladies, we sometimes have to step outside of our comfort zones and sometimes even outside of the rules if necessary to get what we need from God or from your church. So don't let anything stand in your way, much like this woman. Don't let tradition, position or lack thereof, resources, public opinion, nothing stand in your way. You need to be heard, resist. You need to be helped, resist. You need to be blessed, resist. So at first she resisted, but then she persisted. And Miss G also persisted when she kept looking for specialists and treatments that could help Terrell. She endured the disrespect of the medical personnel. She even started to lie about the whereabouts of Terrell's father because the truth of his suicide made people look at her with pity and disgust, and she got tired of it. But no matter how discouraged she was, she told me she was determined that she was going to find a doctor that would really try to help Terrell. So she kept on searching, ignoring the judgment, ignoring the condescension, ignoring the negativity. She wasn't going to give up on her son. So she finally found a doctor that was willing to work with her. And even though Terrell had been walking on his own without assistance and playing and mastering sports for the last 7 years, she was always afraid that a wrong move or a bad fall would reverse Terrell's healing and he would end up partially paralyzed again. Yes, she persisted. And this Gentile woman persisted. Jesus seemed to be denying her what she needed and insulting her. Yet she still did not back down nor retreat. The Lord was rejecting her. How strong must you be to continue to fight when even God is rejecting you? What kind of strength must you have to keep praying when you haven't heard from God in too long to even remember? What kind of superhuman do you have to be to still claim Jesus to be real when your life can make even the devout believers doubt? How committed to your belief in Jesus' abilities that you can handle being snubbed by him. So if you used to have the golden touch and you have a great spouse, a great job, great kids, you look great, you felt better, and then in a second, you lose your job, your savings are rapidly depleted, you're trying to figure out who your spouse even is, but this is not the person that you married. Your kids have lost every bit of sense that you've poured into them, and then your doctor calls you in to tell you that treatment must start immediately. Can you still trust Jesus then? Because see, that's some true strength, some true determination and commitment. Yet, she persisted. She didn't run away. She didn't back down. She didn't hit Jesus with her purse and ask him, who are you calling the door? No, she just persisted. Because this is a mother fighting for her child, just like Miss G did for Terrell. She was willing to be ridiculed, humiliated, disrespected, because she knew that Jesus could heal her daughter. She did not know if Jesus would heal her daughter, but she knew that he could. Do we have that same kind of trust in what Jesus can do when it looks like he's telling us that he won't do it? When you know that he can heal, but you're wondering, will he? When you know that he can provide, but you're wondering, will he? When you know that he is love, but you're wondering why you don't feel it. But Jesus was not denying her. He was just saying, I have to give what I have to the Jews because it's them that I came to save. It's not fair for me to give you what's theirs. But then she answered him, Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. And her response is both wise and thought-provoking. She wasn't asking him to deprive the children. She was just asking that she even be considered for the crumbs, the leftovers, the refuse. Ladies, you know what you need from God and from the church, and you also know what you have to offer the church. So you don't take no for an answer. So Jesus, can I just please have the little bits of you that are left behind, that are dropped, that are forgotten about? Because I know that even a crumb of you can reverse my situation, can give me healing, and can change my whole life. Resist, persist, and then subsist. The legal definition of subsist is to remain in being, force, or effect. And Ms. G subsisted with me. She admitted that she was overprotective of Terrell because of his health issues, and she knew that her doing that was partially causing his anger, but the anger was the sickness that was worrying her now. And this was the reason that she was sharing her story with me. She said to me, just like before, I see my son needs help. And I'm going to make sure he gets it. He seems to really like you and respect you. So would you mind talking to him about his behavior? And I know we just met, but I don't mind embarrassing myself and sharing my past and even risking your judgment because I feel in my spirit that you can help me help him. I'm his mother and there's nothing that I would not do for him. Like Miss G, the Syrophoenician woman persisted in her efforts and then subsisted in his presence. She confronted Jesus, stood her ground, and won. This right here negates the belief that we can't question or contest God. Because God actually welcomes honest conversations with us, but you've got to be prepared for his answers. This woman waited right there. This sister was willing to see this encounter through to the end. First, she resisted the forces that were against her. Then she persisted in her mission. Then she subsisted in Jesus' presence because she knew that's where the healing was. She knew that everything she needed was in Jesus, and she insisted that his power was enough. She was convinced of Jesus' ability to help her daughter. Her faith convinced Jesus to minister to her. Scripture states, then he said to her, for saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. So she went home, found the child lying on the bed and the demon gone. Her insistence was why she gained Jesus' respect. Her insistence got her daughter free. And though in the story her insistent faith comes at the end, her insistent faith that leads her to seek Jesus in the first place. So now we can change the order around, because I had to wait until Jesus' validation at the end to get the true order to the process to success for a sister. Insist, resist, persist, and subsist. This Syrophoenician sister's story reads as a transcript for the life story of any successful sister. First, she insisted that Jesus was who she needed to solve her problems. Then she resisted the forces against her. Next, she persisted in her mission. And finally, she subsisted in Jesus' presence, because she knew that's where the power was. So for the sisters, figure out where you need to insist on assessing Jesus' power and authority. Then prepare to resist those that try to oppose you when you're on your mission to get to Jesus. Next, you persist when it would be so much easier to just give up. And finally, you subsist in Jesus' presence until he moves for you or moves you. Insist, resist, persist,